Hello, Craig here. We're going to talk about the Content-Aware Move tool in this tutorial. I have the same Wienermobile up here at the fair, and the Content-Aware tool can be found underneath your Healing Tools, kind of this little congregation of 5 tools here. Content-Aware Move tool. So we'll select that. Now you may have heard all of the wonderful stories about this tool and how it solves the world's problems. Let me tell you that that really isn't the case. So let's just say I want to move this little boy here over here. And the Content-Aware Move tool mode is set to move. You have one that can move, or you can have one that extends. This could also be called copy because it'll copy it. So let's just outline him. And then once we have a selection, we will click and drag. We want him to move over here by the fence. Now we get a bounding box, so we type a return. And it moves him over there, and you see our results. Amazing, right? Yes, I'm being sarcastic. We have part of the car eaten away over here. His hand is eaten away. Part of this is still left in here. This aligned okay. It did an okay job with the fence. But as you can see, this didn't solve our problem. So all of the things in Photoshop that sometimes you hear about that you can do this, do that, it's kind of magic, isn't always the case. So let's back up and let's look at where the Content-Aware tool does work really well. And you can see here it's just a very complex background. There's a lot happening behind this little boy. It's just too much for Photoshop to do. If I really wanted to move him, I would have to path him and with as much detail as possible, move him over here on a separate layer and then fill in the rest of the car. So the Content-Aware Move tool. Let's look at this blue mat right here. This we'll probably have a little more success with. So let's just grab some of this. And again, if you've watched any of my other tutorials, when I make a selection, in order to hide the selection, I tend to wave it and make it irregular. Okay, so now I have this mat selected. And if I just want to move it, again under mode, I leave it on move. I click and I drag, and it will move it over here. And then I'll get the bounding box, type a return. And it makes it disappear here, puts it in here, because it is, or puts it in this new area, because it is content aware. It's kind of balancing out what the pixels look like inside the selection with the background in the new area. And if I deselect, it looks pretty good. You can see up here it's eaten away at the edge a little bit. That's not as good as I would like it. Up here it's not really that good either. So I would have to go in here and I would have to use the clone stamp to fill this in and match this a little better. Get rid of this darker area and fill in a cleaner edge on the mat. But over here as we look, this did a really nice job. I might have to clone stamp a little bit in here, but you really can't tell where that mat was. And if I were to take the mat out completely and show you the photograph, you wouldn't have guessed that there was a blue mat in here. So let's go back to this content-aware selection that we had initially. And notice again, I kind of stayed away from the black part of the tires. Now I'm going to change the mode from move to my other selection, or my other option, which is extend. And like I said before, this could really be called copy as well. Because now when I grab this and move it, it moves it over here, but it keeps the original. You get the bounding box, type a return, and now I have two mats. And they both look like they go there. Again, this edge could be refined with the clone stamp tool. This dark area here could also be refined with the same clone stamp tool. When I move my selection and I want to extend it or duplicate it, when I move it over here, as soon as I place it, it gives me that bounding box. At this time, I can also resize it. I can adjust it with that bounding box and make it look a little bit smaller. So now I have two mats laying here. So in this instance with a mat, the the content aware move tool works pretty well. Let's back up. We'll get rid of that selection with Command D. Let's go up here and look at this Oscar Mayer logo. Seeing that this is on a solid background, similar to the gravel, this is basically a solid background. Let's say I want to put this logo down here as well. I'm going to keep my mode on extend, and then I will go up here and I will select around this Oscar Mayer logo. Again, I'm making it rippled and waved. Now I will take this and I will bring it down here. And now before I type return to get rid of the bounding box, I will make it just a little bit smaller. Move it down on here. I'm also going to rotate it just a little bit. Make it just a touch smaller. And now when I type return, it does a real nice job of blending this in with the yellow. And when I back up, it looks pretty good. You can see that there is a little bit of a ripple in here, a little bit of a wave that we might be able to get rid of that if we moved a little bit farther out on here as well. But basically what I wanted to show was this does a nice job of moving that logo and a nice job of duplicating it and blending it with the background. You know, just because I'm curious, I'm going to go in here and make this, since this yellow is pretty consistent background, I'm not going to ripple my edges. And let's see if that has any effect on that rippling that I had there. We'll learn as we go here. That had a little bit of an effect on it. It still rippled just a little bit down here and a little bit here, but not too much. And this was a pretty straight selection. So that is the Content Aware Move tool. Works not so well over here where there's a complex image. Pretty well here when you have a consistent background. Really well here where you have a very simple background and something that you want to move over top of it to a similar colored background. I hope this helps. Thank you.